Greetings. It's Monday, June the 23rd, in the eventful year of 2025. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Monday Morning Report. Well, it's no secret that so much is going on in the world. In fact, I was up very early this morning working on one version of my script, and more things are happening. As I'm recording this, some important news for Americans living in Qatar and probably for the general area of the Straits of Hormuz is that the Americans in that country, about 8,500, I believe is the number, have been told to shelter in place. That's usually not a good sign. Shelter in place means something really nasty is about to happen. It's supposed to be what they call an abundance of caution warning, which means that if nothing happens, they were just being abundantly cautious. As I've said before, and as history dictates, whenever you get into a war, you really have no idea where it's going to go. This morning, the Crown Prince, a man who's described as the Crown Prince, doesn't seem to describe himself as that, the son of the late Shah, Reza Pahlavi, in Paris, gave a very impressive presentation on how he's trying to lead a transition government. The current Iranian government, known as the Islamic Republic of Iran, depending on who you talk to, seems to be on the ropes, which is a good thing, and I'll go back to that later. There is so much information, quote-unquote, flying around right now, you really don't know what to make of any of it. Every person who's worked for the CIA or held rank in the military and can call themselves a quote-unquote expert, even if they've been retired for many years, is in demand by everybody on YouTube and the internet who has a microphone and a podcast, which is why I'm not seeking anyone out like that. In reality, this is all guesswork. You'll have some people making the claim that we're on the verge of World War III, others that it's not going to be such a big deal, others that say, well, honestly, they really don't know. Now, everyone knows, of course, about the Americans hitting the Iranians over the weekend using what are called bunker buster bombs. These are very, very deep ordnance that can only be carried by that rather creepy and nasty-looking plane known as the B-2. To its credit, the U.S. Air Force did a wonderful job of faking us out. I thought the attack might be coming at the end of the day on Sunday. It turned out Saturday. What they did is they sent a couple of bombers out towards Guam, letting people think that was the main force, while most of them went east and went over Europe, were refueled there. It was a pretty clever operation. But we really don't know how effective it was, or if it was effective in knocking out Iran's nuclear potential. One of the things that was let out by a retired general, one of many that are out on the internet talking, was that those particular weapons were never tested on mountains of solid rock while they were in development. Oops. He probably wasn't supposed to say that, so we don't really know how effective these things are. The one thing we do know is Iran is really not fighting back very well. The Iranians are on the ropes. And you're getting this from all sorts of sources, which is why the Crown Prince, as we like to call him, in Paris is calling on the rest of the world to push this rather nasty regime into the abyss. Whatever you think of Israel, whatever you like or don't like them, think they have way too much influence over the United States, which is pretty accurate. They've done a marvelous job of really pulverizing that country, and doing so with pretty surgical strikes. They just fly all over that country right now, completely unmolested, no anti-aircraft fire. Missiles are getting less and less frequent. They've been doing a very good job of taking out the launchers, which is important. If you have missiles and you don't have anything to launch them with, well, they're just big firecrackers. So, what is this all about now? The United States, is it at war? Well, you could say so. But one of the things that people keep forgetting is all of this is over Iran. Really. And all of the problems we've been having for the last many years, including since 2023, has been over Iran. There is a danger, but the danger is not really in terms of military tactics at this point, although there is great fear in the United States that there could be a retaliation by sleeper cells Yesterday on Sunday, there was a shooting at a church in Michigan. It was not done by someone with a Muslim name, although that was speculated on immediately. This was a fellow who came up with what sounded like an automatic weapon, which was a bit suspicious. He was killed by a security officer who was himself wounded. No one was hurt otherwise. That was a very close call. Says a lot about the world when you have to have armed security at places where people are supposed to be interacting with the divine. The same goes for mosques, and the same goes for synagogues, and who knows, maybe Buddhist temples are going to need to have people with sidearms and AR-15s pretty soon. Now, it's important to be on the alert for such attacks, but the other thing you got to look for, and this is something that has to be addressed, and it's not pleasant, is there are crazies on the other side of the fence who could be tempted to go to mosques or attack people with turbans or something like that. After 9/11, there were a few Indians of the Sikh religion who were killed in Texas, as I recall, because they were wearing turbans. They had nothing to do with 9/11. They weren't even Arabs. They were Indians. But Americans tend to be a little less sophisticated, especially if they have certain religious prejudices, and, well, there's a lot of tragedy that can happen right now. So the danger is not just with these sleeper cells, which very well could be operating in the United States and probably are, but people who are on the opposite side of the fence and think anyone who comes from that part of the world should be killed. But it all originates with something that I keep talking about that needs to be eradicated, and that is religious fundamentalism, fanaticism, craziness, which we will revisit later. Other things going on. There is some crossover already with the Russian side of this equation, the Russian-Ukrainian war. 3 Ukrainians were arrested in Iran, supposedly because they were trying to sabotage a drone manufacturing facility at the direction of the Mossad. It's kind of silly in a way because, well, all the Iranian-designed drones are now being made in Russia under license, but they're supposed to be hung in a few days, and the Iranians, the ones that are in power now, they like to do that with construction cranes and very public venues. Very nasty way to go, but what do you expect from people that believe they're on the right side of God and should kill people because of it? What we have to think about here, people, is to, again, go back to a historic precedent. During the American Civil War, the staff of General Ulysses S. Grant used to wring their hands about how terrible the other side was. Oh, my goodness, Robert E. Lee is going to do this, he's going to do that. And he eventually lost his temper and said, will you please stop thinking of what he is going to do to you, and you start thinking of what you're going to do to him. And then eventually the war was over. One of the problems that people do not want to talk about is regime change. And that's what's needed in this place. It doesn't matter if Iran was right in what they were doing or if Israel was wrong in doing a sneak attack, which, well, was not exactly the best thing probably, but it doesn't matter at this point. The Americans were also complicit in that. And they've been very good at faking out the Iranians. But let's be honest, this is not going to go well unless the Islamic Republic of Iran is gone. It cannot be allowed to survive. This is not just about nuclear weapons. This is about terrorism. This is about funding crazy groups around the world who believe that the world has to be Islamic 100% and the version of Islam that is coming out of Tehran. Everyone is sick of this, especially in the Middle East. No one wants to admit this because there's so many people that are sympathetic with the plight of the Palestinians, and they do deserve better than they've gotten for sure. But remember, before October 7th, 2023, things were pretty peaceful there, really. I mean, that's just a fact. Gaza had a lot of investment coming into it. A lot of people there were commuting to jobs in Israel. West Bank had a lot of farms that were owned by Palestinians that were selling their produce to the Israelis. The Saudi Arabians were about to have diplomatic relations with Israel. This doesn't excuse any of the wrongs that have been done over the decades or for the last 80 years or so. It doesn't mean it was ideal, but it was heading in a good direction. People weren't killing each other. They were working together. Gaza could have been another Singapore or another Hong Kong if they were putting their money in the right places and not just buying weapons. When Hamas attacked Israel and killed its citizens, what were they expecting? An overthrow of the country was not going to happen. That Israel was going to do nothing? Good luck with that one. That was all bought and paid for by Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Some of the nastiest people in the world. What people are now looking at is each other and thinking, why do we have to put up with this insanity and this nonsense? Why do we have to worry about bombs going off in places of worship? Oh, a Christian church in Damascus. I almost forgot. Yesterday, a suicide bomber went in there during Sunday services, killed himself and at least 20 other parishioners. Wow, we need that. We don't. This has always been about regime change. Don't think otherwise. And it can't be allowed to fail. Because if it does, it's going to be much worse to deal with. This country will be impossible to deal with. You think they're not going to be interested in nuclear weapons anymore or spreading their terrorism? This morning, we're worried about the Straits of Hormuz being closed. 20% of the world's oil goes through that, most of it to the Far East. China is not happy. But China, remember, is an atheist state. They're communists, and they're extremely practical. I'm sure if you talk to the leadership of the Chinese today, they would say they're sick of Islamic fundamentalism as well. Iran is one of their friends by convenience. The Saudi Arabians have improved in some years. I have to admit that. I've never been a fan of that country. But in recent decades, they have been basically seeing the light. Women can drive cars in their country now. Isn't that nice? But the world is sick of people invoking whatever God they believe in as a means to make it miserable for the rest of us. You remember all the doomsayers about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, when Donald Trump was imposing all these tariffs to try to work out better deals? By the summertime, by June or July, the shelves at Walmart or Target or these other retailers are going to be bare. Well, I was just there the other day, and they're not bare. A lot of stuff there. Some of the prices are a little higher, but pretty much okay. You see, nobody really wants a third world war. Are we in it? Well, we aren't sure. Little things can happen that can make things go in either direction. But nobody can really see the future. That's important to know. The future is up to us. The future is up to what happens in back rooms. Right now, there's a lot of negotiation going on behind the scenes with various people of various nations with a lot of different interests, and some of them coincide with each other. Could there be a dirty bomb, nuclear, going off in an American city over the next few days? I guess it's possible, but we don't know how possible. Could Iran have a nuclear weapon coming, or have one in its possession that it launches on Israel? Possible. We don't know. We do know that Israel, who has nuclear weapons, and because they do have nuclear weapons, that has been a problem in recent decades. Well, would they launch one if they felt they were in danger? They've already threatened it before. What I think everybody's sick of is this crazy fundamentalist religious nonsense, because this is all about religion. Sorry, guys, it is. It's all about religion, a specific one that originated back in the Bronze Age, in the middle of the desert in the Middle East. And for some reason, the rest of us have to live with this. And we're tired of it. Really. It's not the people that were seeking enlightenment or the prophets or the sons of God or whatever. It's the fan clubs that have seen to it that those of us who are just human are made to suffer. Maybe that's the problem. Suffering is part of their religion, and they want other people to be miserable as well. There's one interesting number that was given to me by a member of the Iranian diaspora, the people that have been living in exile, and that only 30% of the people in Iran are actually very dedicated practicing Muslims. Most of them have dropped off the faith. A lot of mosques have been closed in Iran. That's an interesting thing to learn, because people just aren't going, and At the same time, they cost a lot of money to run, and building nuclear weapons can be expensive. This is all about power. Power over people. And a lot of religions have been used for that. So while we're looking at what's going on in the world and preparing accordingly, gasoline is probably going to go up, and there's going to be some more people killed in this thing before it's over. But let's just go back to what good old Ulysses S. Grant said, is don't think about what they're going to do to us. Let's think about what we're going to do to them. The only danger is the Islamic Republic of Iran being allowed to survive. And fortunately, it seems that a lot of work is being done behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, like with the exiled crown prince, to make that a reality. Because people aren't going to want to do this anymore. I think they're tired of it everywhere. They just want to go back to being people. They just want to go back to living their lives. As we follow the headlines, it's important to be vigilant in your immediate surroundings because we really don't know where things are going to go. There are crazy people out there. A lot of them have weapons. A lot of people in the United States that shouldn't be here, and we don't know anything about them. Thank you very much, Mr. Biden and your administration. At the same time, this crazy monster known as the Islamic Republic of Iran has been growing in size and influence since the days of Jimmy Carter, cursed be his name. Maybe it's time that it disappears. So let's hope for the best and pray that things get better, no matter what God you believe in. If that God does exist, he or she or it is sick of it too. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies, no matter what their religion. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember Clown World, the Deep State, and all religious extremism, including the Islamic Republic of Iran, must be destroyed. Good day.